Alright, 5.1 talks about exponential rules. Right? So an exponent is basically a shorthanded way of saying multiplying some number over and over and over again. So if you want to figure out what 5 to the third power is, it's 5 times 5 times 5, or 125. So 5 to the third power, 5 is your base, 3 is your exponent or power. Okay? And so the exponent just tells you how many times you're multiplying it, and the base is the number that you're multiplying. Right? So b to the n is b written down n times, multiplied all together. Right? So if you want to evaluate something, they say evaluate the exponents first, deal with the negation as well, then multiplication and division, and then addition, subtraction, left to right. Yeah. So we know that PEMDAS is parentheses first, exponents second. Right? One of the things you want to remember about exponents is they're very short-sighted. Okay? Just like myself, I can't see past the first row of students if I take my glasses off. But with my glasses, I can see the whole room. Well, that's the same way with an exponent. 2 to the third, let's try 2 to the second. Negative 2 to the second, right, without a parentheses, that's negative 2 times 2, because the only thing the exponent sees is the base. It doesn't see the sign of the base. So the thing that it's going to repeat over again is the 2, but not the negative sign. And so your answer there is negative 4. But now if you put parentheses around it, that's like your exponent can see the entire number now, not just the 2, but the negative as well. And so that's negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. Notice the difference there. So when you have parentheses, it allows you to see even the sign in front of the number. Without the parentheses, the number itself is the only thing that's being written over and over and over again, not the negative sign. Right, so you want to remember that when you're dealing with exponents here. Alright, so 1 plus 2 to the 4th over 4, you want to figure out 2 to the 4th is first. And the way you do that in your calculator, you use your hat key, right? You have the hat key right there. Okay, so 2 hat 4 is 2 to the 4th, which is 16. Right? So 2 to the 4th is 16. 16 over 4 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Right? 3 times 1/3 squared. By the way, when something is raised to the second power, we say the word squared. When something is raised to the third power, we say cubed, because it talks about the area of a square and the volume of a cube. 1/3 squared is 1/3 times 1/3, or 1/9. And 3 times 1/9 is 3/9, which simplifies down to 1/3. Negative 2 to the 4th, that's negative, and 4 2's, one right after another. Well, 4 2's multiplied together is 16, but it's negative 16. Now this is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, 4 times over. So that's going to be positive 16, not negative. All right. Anything to the 0th power equals 1. All right. Anything to the 0th power equals 1, and you just have to keep in mind what the exponent sees, right? So 7 to the 0 is just 1. 7 to the 0 is just 1. But this whole thing to the 0, that reduces to a 1, and 3 times 1 is just 3. And this whole thing is raised to the 0th power, so this whole thing is just 1. It just depends on what the exponent can see. And again, with the parentheses, you can see a lot more. Without the parentheses, it only affects the number to its immediate left. But otherwise, with the parentheses, it affects everything inside the parentheses. Now, if you're multiplying two things that have the same base, you add the exponents. So 2 to the 3rd times 2 to the 2nd is really 2 to the 5th, because 2 to the 3rd is 2 times 2 times 2. 2 to the 2nd is 2 times 2. That's 5 2's. So it's really 2 to the 5th. And so you're just adding the exponents, and 2 to the 5th is 32. X to the 4th, x to the 5th multiplied together gives you x to the 9th. And here's where it gets a little bit tricky. You're going to add the 2 and the 6, because the x's are the same base, so you get x to the 8th. So you're adding the 2 and the 6, but you're also multiplying out in front the 2 and the 5. So you got to switch gears. You got to multiply 2 times 5 to give you 10, but you got to add 2 and 6 to give you 8. So that's a little bit tricky there. And now x cubed times 2x is x cubed times 2x, and x cubed times 3x squared is x cubed times 3x squared. And x cubed times x is really x to the 4th with a 2 in front. And this one's going to have a 3 in front, but x cubed and x to the 2nd is x to the 5th. You're going to add those. All right. When you're multiplying things that have the same base, like a plus b, this is a plus b to the 1, a plus b to the 4, so this is a plus b to the 5th power. Right? Now what if you have power to a power? What do you have? Something raised to an exponent, and then that whole thing is raised to another exponent. Well, that's where you multiply your exponents. You don't add them. So 3 to the 2nd raised to the 4th is 3 to the 8th, because 2 times 4 is 8. A to the 3rd to the 2nd is a to the 6th, because 3 times 2 is 6. Okay? Now if you got more than one item that's raised to a power, each item gets hit with that exponent. So 3z to the 2nd is 3 to the 2nd z to the 2nd, which reduces however it does, gives you 9z to the 2nd. Now here each one is raised to the 3rd power, so you got negative 2 to the 3rd, you got x to the 2nd to the 3rd. Negative 2 to the 3rd is negative 8. X to the 2nd to the 3rd is x to the 6th. And here you're going to hit each one with a 5, so x to the 2 times 5, y to the 3 times 5. So that's x to the 10, y to the 15. And here you're raising each one to the 3rd power, so 2 to the 6th, a to the 15th. Okay? And 2 to the 6th is really 64, and it's negative. And a to the 15th just stays the way it is. What about a fraction? A fraction raised to a power, each one, top and bottom, is raised to that power. So 2/3 to the 3rd is 2 to the 3rd, 3 to the 3rd. And 2 to the 3rd is 8, 3 to the 3rd is 27. A over b to the 9th, that's a to the 9th, b to the 9th. A plus b over 5 to the 2nd is a plus b to the 2nd over 5 to the 2nd. Okay? And so they give you the basic rules here. B to the 0 equals 1, because anything to the 0th power equals 1. I like to look at these specific examples here. Anything to the 0th power equals 1. 5 to the 4th, 5 to the 3rd is 5 to the 7th. Y to the 2nd times 5 is y to the 10th. P to the 7, q to the 7. And x to the 3rd, y to the 3rd. Right? And so I wrote down some basic rules here, and I'll include this in my document files on Canvas, but these are the exponential rules here. Okay. Let's talk about specific similar questions here. 5.1. 4 to the 3rd. Well, that's 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. Negative 2 cubed. That's negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 8. This one is negative 2 times 2 times 2, which is also happens to be negative 8. Anything to the 0th power equals 1. And you're going to add these 3's to give you 5 to the 6th, or 15, 6, 25. And this one you're going to add the 2 and the 6 give you 8, or 6, 5, 5, 3, 6. And here this is just 2 x to the 2nd 3 times over, so it's really x to the 6th. 4 times 5 is 20, and 2 plus 5 is 7. Here you're multiplying because it's power to a power, so that's 6, and it simplifies to 64. Here you got x to the 1 and x to the 6th, which is x to the 7th. Here you got a to the 3rd, b to the 3rd. Negative 4 cubed is negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 is negative 64. B squared cubed is b to the 6th. This is x to the 2 times 7, y to the 3 times 7 gives you x to the 14, y to the 21. A to the 2nd, b to the 6th. Okay? And a to the 3rd, b to the 3rd. And now you combine your a's to give you a to the 5th. You combine your b's to give you b to the 9th. Notice here you're multiplying, and here you're adding. So you gotta keep keep in mind, keep your exponential rules straight. 5 squared is 525. A plus b squared is just a plus b squared. This part reduces down to a 1, and 6 times 1 is 6. Now compound interest is calculated this way with some original starting amount plus 1 plus your interest rate raised to the number of years that you're investing it for. And so they're asking you to solve this guy where p is 1,000. So you plug in 1,000 here, you figure out what that guy is, you raise it to the third and multiply it times 1,000 and you get that number. Always round to 2 digits because money goes out to 2 places, pennies. X to the third times x to the sixth is x to the ninth. Negative 3 squared is negative 3 times negative 3 or positive 9. That's r to the 8th and that's t to the 6th. That's y to the 6th, x to the 12th, y to the 3rd, and your y's come together to give you 9. This is 27, this is 125, it's x to the 6th, y to the 12th. And you get a width of 2x squared and you got a length of 5x squared, and so your area is this times this, and when you simplify it down you get that. Volume is length times width times height, so you're multiplying all three together and you get 8x cubed.